Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be in London, and my sincere thanks to the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United Kingdom to invite me and give me the honor to be with you. During these 2 days, we are going to reflect together on the issues of marriage, family, and parenting. I realize that majority of you here are very young compared to myself. And some of you are married, and some of you are getting ready to marry, and some have been married recently. But issues of marriage, family, and parenting cannot be separated from each other, because we are all products of our families. So our families have impacted us. We are all individuals who have been affected by the mode of parenting that we have received. And all of us as individuals who will get married or are married, we will be affected by what we have experienced and what we will do ourselves. So these three issues are totally interconnected with each other and apply to all ages and to everybody. So that's one aspect of this workshop that we should keep in mind. Marriage, family, and parenting are interconnected processes. The second thing is that this is a learning occasion, not a therapeutic occasion. We are here together to learn about the characteristics of a healthy marriage, of a healthy family, of a healthy process of parenting. What does it mean to have a healthy marriage, family, and so forth? This is important because of many reasons. The most important of which is that marriages and families in our times are going through very difficult time. And actually, throughout history of humanity, the institutions of marriage and family have been not fully and completely evolved and developed. At the core of that, of course, has been the issue of inequality, men and women. Human history never had known a civilization in which men and women have been equal. And because of that, marriages of different societies and different cultures have had characteristics of their own, but have been negatively affected by the lack of equality in the context of marriage. Now, the other thing is that we live now in times in which many people have rejected the concept of marriage. Many have decided that marriage can be of many different kinds, and also could be temporary rather than permanent. So the institution of the marriage is going through profound change and crisis in our times. And in the context of these processes, we encounter the teachings of the Baha'i faith that places the marriage and family central to the life of both the individual and the community, emphasizes that this is the eternal institution that has always existed and will always exist, calls upon us all to get married, gives us direction of what marriage can be, how it should be, and many of those are not totally in harmony with the current views in our world. So as such, Baha'is are oddballs in this world. Many of our ideas are not progressive in the context of the materialistic societies that we live. We have very different ideas about marriage and family. And we have to try to understand the nature and dynamics of the Baha'i marriage, Baha'i family, and to see how we can live in those contexts, in the larger context of our society. Okay? Now, in order to understand the fundamentals of marriage and family, first we have to understand ourselves as human beings. Who are we as human beings? What are we as human beings? Why are we? What is the purpose of the whole thing as a human being? And in order to do that, we have to connect with the very source of our being. And of course, the source of our being is that reality within us, which has many names, many different names, but it is one reality. It is called soul, it is called the spirit, it is called mind, it's called consciousness. It has different names. In psychology, it's called psyche. These are all the same. These are different names of the same reality of what a human being is. Human beings are not the physical elements and components of our body, because these physical components we can change. We can change, we can transplant, we can have, one of the ladies here has an ironed knee. We can be all kind of, bodies, but it is the mind, it is the soul that becomes fundamental in determining who we are as human beings. But soul is a very nebulous phenomena in general when you think about it, so we have to understand it more concretely to see what do we mean when we say human consciousness or human mind or human soul or human spirit. What do we mean by that? And one of the best ways of going about it is to reflect on the powers of the human soul. And the powers of human soul are three. First is the capacity to know. Human beings are lovers of knowledge. We have to know. That's why you are all here. You are hopeful that you will learn something new. Hopeful, okay? You have come here because you want to know. When people see each other, you say, how are you? What is new? Because you want to know. All sciences and arts are expressions of human need to know. Not only that, Baha'u'llah tells us that we have been created to know. right? We have been created to know. So one of the capacities of human knowledge, a human soul, is to know. The second capacity that we have is the capacity to love. These are all equally important. It's not one more important than the others, okay? They are equally important. Again, we human beings are born as lovers. We have to love, and we need to be loved. And our lives become meaningless if we do not have love. So love is the central power of the human soul. And we have to learn how to develop our capacity to love. How we become individuals who are capable of all-encompassing and conditional universal love. How can we become recipients of love? So this we need to know. Nobody teaches us usually about these things. There is no school that you can go and to learn about how to love. There are schools that you go and to learn how to cook, but not how to learn to love. Or how to drive. Yes, there is a school. But how to love, we don't have it. So we need to establish occasions in which we together learn about how to love, what is love, and what is a healthy love relationship, and how we can create it, and how can we make ourselves lovable, and how can we love others in a healthy manner. That's the second power of the human soul. The first one is to know. The second is to love. And the third human capacity is the capacity to choose, the human will. We all have the capacity to choose, the choices that we have. Actually, the capacity to choose is central to the process of becoming a human being. What distinguishes human beings from all other living beings is that not only we have the capacity to know at the highest level among those that live in this planet, and the capacity to love in manifold ways, but also the capacity to choose how to use our knowledge and how to express our love. And that's our human will. So the knowledge, love, and will are the three powers of the human soul. And we all have those powers. All humanity are one in the context of their three fundamental capacities. In other words, all humanity evolve and live their lives around the axis of knowledge, love, and will. Everything that we do in life, everything that we experience in life, are the outcome of these three processes. Okay. Now that we have some idea about the powers of human soul, then we have to see how these powers are used in everyday life. How do we use them in everyday life? Because for those friends who are in this audience who are the members of the Baha'i faith, you will see that in different writings of the Baha'i faith, references are constantly made to these three powers: knowledge, love, and will. For example, in the Hidden Words, Baha'u'llah says, I knew, knowledge, I knew of my love for thee. God is speaking to humanity. Says, I, God, knew of my love for thee, therefore I created thee, which is the act of will. Act of will is the process of creation, right? Or, for example, at the beginning of the most holy book of the Baha'i faith, the Kitab Aqdas, the most holy book, you read that we have been created. The first duty that we have is to know the manifestation of God, which is knowledge, to obey manifestation of God and the teachings of God, which is will, and to do that because of love. Okay? That we just read it. Or for in obligatory prayers that we say every day, I say that we have been created to know God and to worship God. And worship is the expression of act of will in the context of love. So as you see, these three powers are constantly called upon in life to shape our way of existence, our manner of existence. So it is important for us to see how we function, how we use them, and how we develop these capacities. Now, in order to do that, I invite you to reflect on a concept. I'm going to share 2 or 3 concepts with you that are very fundamental for understanding how to develop our powers of soul. This first concept that I want to share with you is the concept of worldview. Worldview. Concept of world view. Human beings function through the prism of worldview. In other words, we all have a mindset, a way of looking at world and interpreting the world, which allow us to make sense of our life. When we talk about worldview, we are talking about 4 issues. View of reality. All of us have a view of reality, what we think is reality. Usually we don't think consciously about it. It is subconscious or unconscious. But we all have some idea of reality. Our view of human nature. We all have some idea about human nature. Our view of the purpose of life. We all have some idea of what is the fundamental purpose of life and our view of relationships. We all have some idea of what is good relationship. What are the parameters of good relationships? So when we talk about worldview, we are talking about our view of reality, our view of human nature, our view of the purpose of life, and our view of relationships. Now, most people have a dichotomous view of reality. What is dichotomous view of reality? The dichotomous view of reality is that most people think there are two sets of realities or multiple sets of realities in this world. Usually two sets. Good and bad. Okay, that is the good and evil. This idea of good and evil then is translated and transported to our view of human nature. Therefore, we decide that there are some good people, which is us, and bad people, which is them. Okay? And then we expand it. We say science and religion, they are opposites. Men and women are opposites. Black and white, citizens and strangers. We begin to divide, dichotomy. When we have a dichotomous view of reality, we also have a dichotomous of human nature. Okay? So we divide people, we divide religion and science, we divide the spirituality and the scientific principles. We put them at odds with each other. Everything becomes the arena of conflict. Okay? And when we have that view of dichotomous view, then, and we see that the world is composed and comprised of good and bad, then our purpose in life becomes that we are going to be victorious over the bad. We are going to win. We are going to get ahead. We are going to do all the necessary things to protect us from the bad. And suddenly we live in a divided world. Everything becomes divided. Everything becomes divided. The inner life becomes divided, interpersonal life becomes divided, social life becomes divided, and human relationships become divided. So you see how fundamental is our worldview. And because every human being has a worldview, it is essential for us to understand our worldviews. Is that clear? Because these are difficult concepts, but I'm trying to share with you as clearly as I can. Okay? So far we have spoken about the powers of human soul to know, to love, and to will. And we will come back to these powers later again. And we have spoken about the fact that we all have a worldview. And we say that the worldview has 4 components. View of reality, of human nature, of the purpose of life, and of relationships. Now, We can then ask ourselves, are there many worldviews in this world? And you can answer that question in two ways. One way is say, yes, everybody has their own unique worldview. Because the worldviews develop as a result of the type of the families that we grow up in, the type of society that we grow up in, the type of education that we have, and the type of persons that we are. These all together create our worldview, okay? So our worldview develops gradually, and we take him in, and within our worldview, everything becomes normal, you know? For example, I have glasses here, and they're clear. Now, this is my worldview. Now, if I change the color of my glasses to blue, and somebody says, how is the world? I say, well, the world is blue, okay? And another person who has glasses that are yellow says, no, the world is not blue, the world is yellow. Because we are looking through our prisms, through our worldviews in the world. And that's the reason that when you talk with people, people have different worldviews. They see the same thing, but they understand it differently. And they translate it to reality differently, okay? So that's the reason that it's so important for us to know what kind of a worldview we have. Now, in order to do that, we have to see what are the categories of worldview. And there are fundamentally three major categories of worldview. And as I talk about those, you will begin to identify your own worldview. Okay? Don't tell anyone. Keep it to yourself, okay? Worldviews are private, okay? Keep it to yourself. But reflect deeply on your own worldview. The most common worldview throughout human history has emerged because of human fundamental weakness. And we are vulnerable beings. We are living in a world that is not safe. We live in a world that is not secure. And human beings, the first thing that they are concerned about is their survival. Survival in this world. Survival means that we need certain needs that if they are not met, we cannot survive. Needs such as food, shelter, medical help, the opportunity to create secure environments, and so forth. Just think of your ancestors, our ancestors. Think if you were living 70,000 years ago. We would be living in caves or in forests or in deserts. We were living in environments where there were no shelter, that we had to search for food, we had to fight for food, we had to kill animals for food. We were in a state of danger constantly. We would get sick and we wouldn't know what it was and we would die in the process. Just put yourself back there. So what do you think people, our ancestors, did? Well, what they did, they became preoccupied with their survival. the most important thing was to survive. Now, if you want to survive in a dangerous environment, what do you think you need the most?
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Protection.
Protection. When our ancestors decided that if you live in a dangerous world, you need power. You need power. Power to protect yourself, power to fight with the danger, and at the beginning of life in society, power was physical, right? And because people focused on power as the avenue for safety, we began to create power-based societies, power-based worldviews. In other words, we began to say that the reality is that this world is dangerous. And what we need in this world the most is power. Okay? So the purpose of life becomes to acquire power. What are the different kinds of power? Physical power is one of them, right? Economic power, money, is another part of it. Political power, power of leadership, is another one. And power of knowledge is another one. These became the foci of power, the areas of power that society began to look at. And gradually we created the societies around the world that were power-based. Now, what are the characteristics of power-based society and a power-based family? Is that, first of all, whoever has more power is going to be in control. And who very more power? Men. Men, they said, we are powerful and we are going to take over. So say, we are going to be the kings. You have a queen here. But we are going to have kings. We are going to have priests who are men. We are going to have people of wealth who are usually men. And we are going to create a male-oriented, power-based, authoritarian society. And that became the picture of all societies around the world. The character of all societies around the world is that they are power-based, they are usually dominated by men, and in all areas, preference are given to the powerful. And the relationship, therefore, is that the powerful says to the powerless, I will take care of you if you, what?
Obey.
If you obey. If you're good, I take care of you. If you're bad, you're punished. This is the characteristic of a power-based worldview. Survival-based, power-based, authoritarian worldview has been the most common worldview in human history. And still we have societies around the world, and families around the world, and cultures around the world in which they function according to the principles of power-based worldview. Does that make sense? Of course, none of you are involved in that, but you know some people who are that way, right? Them. Yeah. Those who are not here, of course, they are power-based, authoritarian, from different cultures. Persians are not power-based, oh God forbid. Except those that are there. And, all of us are in that context. Okay? All right. So, the power-based process is parallel to the development of human consciousness at the level of childhood. In other words, it reflects the parent-child relationship. It reflects the parent who has the authority and knowledge and power, and the child who doesn't have the knowledge and the power. And therefore, the relationship is unequal. Okay? And the mindset is the mindset of adult-child relationship. And the mode of relationship is that the dominant person commands and the child obeys. Okay? Many societies are organized that way. Many religions are organized that way. Many families are organized that, for example, a man says, I am in control, I obey, I order, and you obey. Okay? Now, this type of relationship began to be rejected about 160, 200 years ago. Human societies in some parts of the world, particularly in the West, in this part of the world, began to say, no, we are not willing to accept this process any longer. We do not want to be ruled by authoritarian dictatorial leaders, be they governmental leaders, social leaders, men, and so forth. They began to reject that process. And a new era began to develop in human consciousness. And that new era corresponds with the adolescence at the individual level. And what are the main characteristics of adolescence? Well, what are the main preoccupations of adolescence?
Rebellion.
Yes, rebellion is one of them.
Independence.
Independence is another one. You see, adolescence is the age of establishing your identity, of who you are, right? And identity means that you want to show your uniqueness. Every person is a unique person. So the adolescent person says, I want to show that I am unique and different from everybody else. It's the age of identity formation. The worldview becomes identity-based worldview. And in the context of the identity-based worldview, what do? We compete. Competition becomes a major mode of human relationships. Okay? In the context of forming identity, then we began to see movements. the whole issue of gender equality is expression of the awakening of women coming to the age of adolescence and saying, no longer we are going to accept the domination and be treated like children. So the whole movement for gender equality started with Tahirih and with others around the world in mid-80s. Okay, that began to happen. And then the parallel to that process, different races of humanity began to say, we don't accept to be second-class races. The whole issue of slavery, the fight about slavery, ending colonialism, rejecting the authority of religious leaders, especially in this part of the world. All of these were the process of humanity coming of age, humanity arriving to the full level of its adolescent mentality. And we created a world that has all the preoccupations of the adolescent age. Everybody says that they are the best. They are the smartest, they are the cutest, they are the most beautiful, they are the most handsome, they are the most this, the most that. If not, we put all kinds of things over ourselves to make us that way. We have to be unique, we have to be different, right? Our shoes are different, blue jeans are different, you name it. Everything has to become unique. Nations began to fight with each other. We began to have the period of nationhood. Nationhood was the emergence of the collective age of adolescence of humanity. Competition became a virtue. Survival of the fittest became the norm. Capitalism, adversarial democracy, modes of government, multi-party modes of government, all of these are characteristics of adolescent age. Now, the whole world lives collectively within the framework of either authoritarian power-based mindset, worldview, or adolescent adversarial, conflicted, power struggle-based worldview. And it is in this context that marriages and families have been affected very, very deeply. Marriages, there is enormous degree of fight and argument and power struggle between men and women in marriages, between parents and children in marriages, in families. There is an enormous degree of breaking of rules and regulations and laws and disregard of standards of morality and so forth. All of these are characteristics of where humanity is now with regard to its collective worldview. And we are affected by that worldview. We cannot help it. If we are not aware of the process, we will be automatically putting the same glasses on and see the world in the same way. So consequently, when we reflect, we will see that some of us have primarily a power-based authoritarian worldview, and some of us have primarily an adolescent power struggle, competitive worldview, and usually a combination of the two. Usually is a combination of one and the other. And these are the prevailing views everywhere. And it shows in our families, it shows in the way that we conduct consultation, it shows in the way that we make decisions, it shows in the way we organize our societies, it shows everywhere. These are prevailing worldview everywhere. And the whole world is emerging now towards the adolescent worldview. And therefore, it's not surprising that the guardian of the Baha'i faith, Sheikh Effendi, says, we are in the latter stages of our collective adolescence. The whole humanity is in the latter stages of collective adolescence. So the two prevailing worldviews are worldview about power-based worldview, authoritarian power-based, or adversarial power struggle, competitive worldview. These are the two worldviews. And when you have these worldviews, then your view of reality changes, your view of human nature is affected, your view of the purpose of life is affected. For example, if I have an adversarial power struggle-based worldview, an identity-based worldview trying to prove myself the best, then what would be the purpose of my life?
To be better than them.
My purpose of my life will be to win. To win. To get ahead of everybody else. Right? That would be my purpose, to win. Okay? Now, I can win in two ways. Either I can win by becoming excellent, or I can win by making that person weak. Okay? Competition. Competition in a positive direction or a negative direction. But nevertheless, the purpose would be that I am going to focus on myself. I am going to make sure that I am ahead of everybody else. And that's the main thing. All right. If my purpose is around the authoritarian mode, I'm going to live my life in a manner that I would be able to control others. I am going to command and control. And I'm going to take power in my hands and make sure that everybody obeys me. Okay? This becomes the ways of relating. And we see these things showing in themselves in the context of the family and marriage and parenting. Now, if we study the writings of the Baha'i faith, we will see that these two modes of worldview and behavior are rejected. And we are called upon to change our worldview. So the next thing that we want to do is see that is how we are going to change our worldview. And what kind of a worldview we have to adopt. Okay? But before we do that, let's see whether you have any questions and comments. And have a little bit of discussions. And in order to make it rather orderly, there are microphones here. I suggest that you pick up the microphone and speak so that everybody can hear you. And we have a little bit of discourse and dialogue. I don't want to be one way only. That would become very authoritarian. That's not good. So let's communicate a little bit.